Hello everyone again. So today I will be doing another video on contraception. And in this video, I will be talking about natural family planning, which is more closely related to contraception. And it is also an alternative to contraception. So I will start by sharing my screen. So if you may not know what the meaning for natural family planning is, so natural family planning is defined as, in this process, it involves using self-control to regulate sexual activities in harmony with nature. So instead of using contraception in the conjugal act, now there will be no use of contraception, but instead of this, the couple will take on the process of natural family planning onto their relationship. So natural family planning methods could be considered to be a hard work, maybe. The couple must measure and chart certain physical symptoms with accuracy and then interpret the charts properly, keeping in mind other events that may interfere with the woman's normal bodily rhythm. And they also need the self-discipline to regulate their sex lives accordingly with the use of natural family planning. And you may ask yourselves, why is natural family planning okay? So natural family planning is not unethical or disobedient to God, in contrast with contraception. So those are two totally different methods. So the natural family planning is not unethical or disobedient to God because, firstly, it uses a mechanism that God originally designed. And it is natural because it is based on the natural human property of self-control. Self-mastery is a power which God gave only to human beings, and so we must exercise this power when we use natural family planning. As I mentioned, the couple should use self-mastery rather than methods which work against the nature. Another reason why natural family planning is not unethical is because it does not completely prevent conception, as contraception does prevent conception, but natural family planning does not. The sexual act still remains open to the creation of a new life, while contraception does not do this. And another reason as well why natural family planning is not unethical is because it does not add anything artificial to the sexual act, so it changes. And also it could be said that natural family planning is not always good sometimes. So natural family planning alone does not satisfy the Catholic teachings about birth control, because the motivation and purpose are also important in the process of natural family planning, because I think the natural family planning will be a challenge to the couple. And also, family planning must be used responsibly and not for trivial reasons. So while it would be good to use family planning to space out the children of a couple, it will be wrong to use family planning because a couple would rather spend their money on, let's say, on some material stuff other than caring for a child. And I will go to the next slide. So natural family planning, or NFP, is considered a function of the natural law and the will of God. So the Catholic Church never really opposed family planning, but in the Catholic Church, it was thought that man may not separate the two meanings of the conjugal act, which is the unitive and the procreative, because these are willed by God Himself. So, as I mentioned in previous meetings, that the two purposes of sex, which is the unitive and the procreative, should not be separated at all. So NFP is a function of the natural law and the will of God, as I mentioned. And this is so because God created man in His image and likeness with an intellect, a will, and a memory. So God therefore also created human sexuality, and He also created fertility, which is ordained to provide a unitive and a procreative meaning to the marital act. We are all called to live chaste lives. And also, John Paul II defined NFP, natural family planning, as the practice of chastity within marriage. So, even if you are married, you can still practice chastity within your marriage. The practice of NFP requires precisely the same commitment as marriage itself. So NFP, I believe, can be a challenge. So it requires a responsibility and commitment to stay with this process of natural family planning. And next, I will be sharing a video with you. And this video, they share the reasons on why they love NFP, as you can see. So I'll start by playing the video.
So today we're going to talk about, okay, so if I can't use contraception, then what? I just have 25 babies?
Maybe.
No, maybe. But we have a method that's tried and true, thanks be to God in the church today, called natural family planning, NFP. So Jackie, what the heck is NFP?
So NFP is not contraception, but it's a form of birth control or birth regulation, which the church actually says, okay, I'm going to read from the Catechism in 2370. It says, periodic continence, which is NFP, that is the methods of birth regulation based on self-observation and the use of infertile periods, is in conformity with the objective criteria of morality. These methods respect the bodies of the spouses, encourage tenderness between them, and favor the education of an authentic freedom. So NFP, what it is, natural family planning, and there are many different forms. There's the Creighton model, the Billings model, the symptothermal, the Marquette method. There's lots of different types of NFP, but basically it's observations of a woman's body. So some focus on cervical mucus, and I know if the word mucus makes you stop, don't do that. It's observations of cervical mucus or temperature or the cervix, the position of the cervix, or other signs like peeing on a stick and knowing your levels to know if you are ovulating or not.
It's not just based on what happened last month, like the rhythm of last month equals this month.
Right, it's not the rhythm method.
Yeah.
In fact, the Creighton model, which we use, is when used well, to perfect use is 99.8% if you are trying to avoid pregnancy. But it can be used for your fertility as a sign of health. So you can use it to see your health. You can use it to avoid pregnancy or to achieve pregnancy. I mean, there's a very small window of when you can actually get pregnant. So if you don't know what's going on in your body, it's kind of a, no pun intended, a shot in the dark.
Classy, by my wife.
I love it just for the health sake, to know what's going on in my body. I know the times of the month that I'm, going to be a little more
sensitive
and emotional when Bobby needs to buy me chocolate and flowers. So I can pinpoint those days by charting. I know those days that I'm going to be a little more emotional. And I also know the days that maybe I'm going to have migraines. And I used to have hormonal.
Sorry, I'm gonna play this again.
So I can pinpoint those days by charting. I know those days that I'm going to be a little more emotional. And I also know the days that maybe I'm going to have migraines. And I used to have hormonal acne. So all those things by charting, you see what's going on in your body. Instead of just putting a woman on the pill and stopping her from ovulating completely, the pill basically, it treats you as if you're pregnant. So if you have endometriosis, PCOS, ovarian cysts, you're not going to know that with the pill because it just stops the symptoms. But with natural family planning, you actually can see what's going on, and you can give your chart to a doctor, like a NAPRO doctor, and they can tell you, like, you're low in these hormones, or you have PCOS, or you have endometriosis. Let's help you. Let's give you some more natural hormones and not synthetic hormones that can harm you, but bioidentical hormones. Sorry, I was very excited, and
Yeah.
And now I'm going to ask you, Bobby.
Well, again, NFP respects the woman's body. It's not just like, here, take a pill. It's like, oh, this is like the valleys and the mountains of your fertility, and it respects the woman, and it helps me learn what's going on.
Yeah, it also.
So it's been awesome, like as a man, like I can learn what's really going on in my wife's body. I'm fascinated by it all. Under a microscope, you can see like the mucus of when a woman is infertile. It looks like just a bunch of Tetris blocks that. There's no way.
Like a brick wall.
Yeah, there's no way anything can get through that.
But
when the mucus is fertile, it's like just a straight shot,
like channels,
like a road
under a microscope. Like how awesome is that?
So like the way God has designed our bodies.
Yes,
it works with that instead of trying to play God and manipulate that ourselves.
So even though NFP is difficult, and we will address that next week, Bobby will address that next week. Even though it's difficult and it's not always easy, it's not always fun.
No.
Though I think what's awesome about NFP is that learning our bodies, learning the beauty of our bodies is exciting for both of us. I think our first NFP class was like, dang, I didn't know this. God has designed our bodies so beautifully. So Bobby, the million-dollar question that everybody asks is, well, then NFP, if you're trying to avoid pregnancy, it's just contraception. So people who use contraception try to say this, to say, well, I can just keep using my pill or my IUD or get sterilized because NFP is just contraception anyways. But then there are also people who are anti-NFP who are like, don't believe in contraception or any kind of birth control or regulation at all. And they're like, well, it's just contraception. So what would you say to that, my friend?
If NFP is the same thing as contraception, why don't you just do NFP?
And then they're like, oh, you know the people
who use
contraception.
Roasted. So that's the sassy answer.
You know it's not.
That's the sassy answer. Yeah, the kind and patient answer is that it's not the same thing because the methods are different. If I need money, I can either rob a bank or I can work at a job. If I want to get an A on a test, I can either study or I can cheat. Like the end
result is
the end result may be the same, but we as Catholics believe that the act and how you get there, it matters. Like the method matters. And so with contraception, it's a purposeful no, we're not open to life, we don't want a baby. And with NFP and charting, you're open to God. You're saying, we're observing this. If we're really not in a place to have a baby, we're just not going to have sex. Like, that's the challenge of NFP, is to have self-control and abstain. NFP is open to God still. You are God, we are not. And even if I'm looking at a chart and I can say, like, there's like no chance she's in an infertile state right now, but we choose to have sex, we're still saying, God, you are the author of life, and in that 1% chance. And I remember back before I was married, my friend Stu, he was doing NFP with his wife, and I asked him, like, how is it, like, actually doing NFP? He said, it's terrifying. It's terrifying, because coming from a condom and contraceptive mentality to embracing NFP, like, even though I look and I know
It's
there's
99.8% effective.
Yeah, there's no chance right now of her conceiving a baby. We are still not putting any barriers up. We are still saying, Lord, our family is in your hands. And again, how freeing that is. All right, so Jackie, what are some of the other benefits of NFP? Why should anyone practice it even if they're not dating or married?
Well, I think one, it puts the couple on the same page. You're communicating every month. There was one study that said that for Catholics, that the Catholic women who ever used NFP in their marital life were 53% less likely to be divorced compared to those women who never used NFP. So that's one benefit, is that
it forces you to talk.
It forces you to talk, and it also fosters intimacy. In fact, there was another study that said, in comparing couple users of NFP with similar cohort of couples using contraceptive methods, it found that NFP couples reported higher levels of spiritual well-being and intimacy, because in those times, I mean, intimacy just doesn't equal sex. We can, and I think you have to learn as a couple, what are other ways that we can grow in intimacy that's not just sex? Like, again, how do we go on dates? How do we romance each other? But again, a woman is most sexually charged when she's ovulating. So that is the difficulty of NFP, is that if you are avoiding pregnancy, is that you are...
When you're most desiring each other is when you have to
abstain,
have self-control, and that's again the demand of NFP. I would say too, like, it's just amazing again to learn the woman's body. Like, I can't imagine as a man, like, not knowing what the heck is going on in my body. So it's a great gift to the church we have it in this era, in this time period.
Right.
They didn't have this 100 years ago. They didn't have this dialed in 50 years ago. I want our daughters to learn this, like, when they hit the right age of, like, here's what's going on in your body.
But really, again, that we know what's going on, but also they know what's going on, because again, when we turn the age of 14, when you start your period, girls go to their OBGYNs and they're like, all right, let's put you on the pill. Instead of teaching us
what's really going on.
And so what if we were actually taught what was going on in our bodies, and if there was an underlying issue that maybe later on would prevent us from being able to get pregnant when we wanted to have children. So again, I think it is so empowering to know what's going on in our bodies. And so there's a lot of benefits of NFP. Google it, find out more. It's awesome, you guys. Again, Bobby's gonna do a video next week on why it's not awesome and the difficulties of it. So we just want to be honest with you. We don't want to lie to you and tell you that it's all rainbows and sunshine. It's gonna be difficult. It's tough, but it's awesome still.
It's worth it. From all of us at Ascension Presents, God bless.
So that was the end of this video. And in this video, the couple discussed the benefits and the beauty of the natural family planning itself. And far from being just a more difficult form of contraception, NFP works along with God's design for life. And they also admitted some of the struggles that come with practicing NFP, because NFP may seem easy at first sight, but when it is actually practiced, then the couple will encounter some struggles along the way. And they also talk about the joy and the authentic freedom that NFP has brought on to their marriage. So that's another benefit on the use of NFP. So as I said before, natural family planning can be a challenge to persons, as it requires self-mastery and dying to self. So it may sound like great in a sense, but living out the natural family planning in your life, then that will be a whole total different story. So being married doesn't mean that you're entitled to have sex with your spouse. If sex is beautiful, natural expression of what love is, then that natural family planning is a form of training in that genuine love. Fertility is a great and powerful gift, but with great power comes great responsibility. So in the natural family planning, if a couple practice NFP, then they need to have like some sort of great responsibility. So the practice of NFP can be difficult in their where the couple practices. So it can be difficult for them to keep this practice throughout their life. But if a couple takes on the practice of NFP, then there will be a growing patience, generosity, and selflessness. And also in the practice of natural family planning, their relationship, so the couple who practices NFP, their relationship will flourish more as a result of this natural family planning. As I mentioned before, the practice of natural family planning, this requires the same kind of commitment as marriage. So the couples should have a strong sense of commitment if they are planning to use natural family planning. And the practice of natural family planning, it obligates the couple to discuss with one another, among other things that they would like to discuss in their marriage. And also the availability or not of the marital embrace. And in the process, they will also increase the communication between the two spouses. So while the divorce rate between the Catholics and the Protestants may be approximately the same, which is estimated around 50%. The divorce rate among the couples using natural family planning is between 2% and 5%. So there is a much lower percent of couples who use NFP and don't get divorced. So in other words, if you want your marriage to survive, it is better to not contracept. When a wife sees that her husband is willing to deny himself for their mutual benefit and the benefit of the family, and this will end up increasing her love for her spouse. This may seem more or less simple for some persons, but there are only two essentials in the practice of natural family planning if the intention is to delay or avoid the pregnancy. And this includes that the woman temporarily defines the limits of the fertile phase of her reproductive cycle, and two, that the couple willingly abstains from all genital contact during that time period. So if a couple wishes to practice NFP, then they should like state the limits of the fertile phase, and they should also like abstain from all like genital contact, as was said, during that specific period. And John Paul II also mentioned in the Theology of the Body that the natural family planning is not without its difficulties, but at the same time, it promises the couple both a courtship and a honeymoon each month. So in fact, John Paul II asserted in his Theology of the Body that the practice of natural family planning in marriage is the practice of conjugal chastity and defined periodic continence as a ritual. So even though a couple is married, they can still practice chastity within the marriage, because this is what natural family planning entails. And it could be said that natural family planning will present some struggles to the couples at first, but there will also be some benefits that will make the relationship of the spouses grow together. So this was the end of my presentation on natural family planning. And I hope you enjoyed my presentation that I gave to you. And I also hope that you learned something useful that you can apply. So thank you for watching and taking your time to view this video.